Welcome to Nick on Knicks, where your boy N.I.C rants about the latest Knicks news. Tough one. It's a tough one. A lot of anticipation. You come in and you're playing against the defending champion Boston Celtics. It's their ring ceremony. They're being coronated for the great run, 64 wins, and pretty much breezing through the playoffs and getting that 18th championship. And as the Knicks, you're coming in with the debut of Mikal Bridges, the debut of Karl Anthony Towns. It's the debut of the new look Knicks, the Knicks team that's supposed to be able to get to that next level, that level that we weren't quite able to get to last year, to be one of those teams in the Final Four, compete for a conference championship, and maybe even, get to the NBA championship and, dare I say, win one. And you have all these different type of expectations that have been thrust upon this Knicks team. And they come out the very first night, and within the first 10 seconds of the game, Karl Anthony Towns went into drop coverage on a pick and roll, and Jason Tatum pulled up and drained a three, basically uncontested. And that's what we saw for the rest of the night. To the tune of 29 for 61, the Celtics tied an NBA record with 29 made threes tonight, and they beat the Knicks 132-109. Game was never close. 3/4 of the way through the first quarter. I don't even know if it took that long. Was it halfway through the first quarter? Game was never close. The Celtics ran a pick and roll and either stepped into an open three or made two passes off of rotation and ended up with an open three, and they didn't miss them. That percentage, that went way down. They barely scored it in the second half of the fourth quarter. They had 128, I think, with like 8 minutes to go. So they only scored 4 more points at that point. And they were trying to get that next three to be able to actually set the record. They were aware. Their crowd was very aware. In fact, when Boston took a 24-second violation late, the crowd booed them, which I kind of thought was kind of crazy. They're doing the classy thing. I know you want to see history, but at the end of the day, they're doing the classy thing against a team that they think that there's a good chance they're going to see. That we know we're going to see each other a few more times this season. In addition to that, there's a chance we could see each other in the playoffs. This is not the time. You're a team that just won a championship, so you have to come at this with a bit of class and grace. And I thought they did a good job of handling that at the end. Honestly, if they started chucking up and going for the threes, that wouldn't have infuriated me either. But they take a 24-second shot clock violation towards the end. They miss a lot of threes, and the percentage was actually much better than what you see at 29 for 61. It was much, much better than that. They shot 47.5%. They really were up around 55% until they started chucking them up towards the end to try to break that record. So they were getting open shots, and they were knocking them down. And that's important because in the NBA, there are some times when you watch a game and you say to yourself, hey, man, the other team, they're just hitting every shot. And a lot of times when it happens early, as my father has told me my entire life, law of averages, they're going to regress to the mean. They're not going to continue. And, a cold streak is going to come up to get them back to about what their average is. And sometimes in certain games, when you're playing another team, it's just like, they just can't miss, and there's nothing we can do about it. They're just hitting crazy shots. They're hitting shots they don't usually hit. They can't miss. That was not the case tonight. That was not the case tonight. This was a case of them, yes, knocking down open shots, which most NBA players, even if they're not very good shooters, will do. And Boston has good shooters all over the floor. But beyond that, it was piss poor defense by the New York Knicks. And the defense, particularly the defense against the three, is the thing that many people, including Tom Thibodeau, have noted are concerns going into this 24-25 season. And tonight, didn't look good. Didn't look good. I mean, these guys are getting whatever they want. Now, let's keep in mind A few things, okay? First and foremost, the Celtics are really, really good. The Celtics shoot and make more threes than anybody in the league. The Celtics did it so successfully last year that teams like the Knicks went out and emulated it and tried their best to create a 5-out system like they had. Many people said that that would be their kryptonite come the playoffs. It was not. Okay. So let's keep in mind that the Celtics are very good. The Celtics have quite a bit of continuity. They have added some big pieces like Zinger, who barely plays and didn't play tonight, and like Drew Holiday, who I think is one of the best winners and most underrated players in the league. I still will never, ever, ever understand how the Bucks gave him up for what ended up being like a few picks, and especially when you give him up and he's able to immediately be bought out from Portland and then go to one of your rivals, the guy who was the glue guy who took your team over the top and helped you get a ring. Now you let him go over there and we're the other team in the green that's at the top of the Eastern Conference, and he helps them get a ring, but they're smart enough to sign him long term. Bucks, terrible move. Hey, I love Dame Dollar. One of my favorite non-Knicks, Dame Dollar, but he was not a better fit for that team than Drew Holiday. Let's talk about one of my other favorite non-Knicks, and that's Jason Tatum. Yo, man, Jason Tatum looked nice tonight. Okay. Jason Tatum is the best combination of length and skill that we see in the NBA today. I think even a little bit more so than Durant, because as much as Durant is such a pure scorer, I don't think he can do the things inside, and he's also not the passer that Tatum is. And I have long thought that Tatum was one of the better players in the NBA. And last year, he got a lot of hate. He didn't shoot great percentages in the playoffs. And then he went to the Olympics and got some DMP, coach's decisions. A lot of people were asking, how can this not get on the floor? How is Derek White getting more minutes than him? Big narrative throughout the Olympics was the lack of production and especially the lack of usage of Jason Tatum. And then you have Jaylen Brown, who he felt like he should have been on the USA team. He felt like he should, that there was some sort of controversy and conspiracy regarding his new sneaker brand that he's coming out with, and maybe some other things that he says he will reveal later. And you see two players who just won a championship who come out with like a chip on their shoulder and like they got something to prove. All offseason, that's been the talk. And tonight, it sure did look like it. Jason Tatum looked fantastic tonight. He was being decisive. He was hitting his outside shots. When he was inside, he was being strong and using his length and not fading away and just going up with that 6'9", 6'10" long arm frame and just finishing, and no one could do anything to bother him in the slightest. He was being patient. And like I said, the pick and roll was working to perfection. And everybody on the floor can hit a three, and they move the ball, they share the ball, they knock them down. And that's why they scored 132 points. That's why they tied an NBA record with 29 shots hit from behind the arc. I blame Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr, I blame you. You did this. You got Tatum to feel like he had something to prove after he just won a championship and has been the best player on that team, an all NBA player, and, one of the best players in the world for years. Keeping Jaylen Brown off that team gave him something to prove. And now the whole league has to deal with these two motherfuckers coming out here like, they got to show everybody what the fuck they can do. We saw what y'all could do. We just saw y'all win a championship. I blame you, Steve Kerr. I blame you. They looked good, man. They looked very, very good. And the Knicks didn't do much to try and stop them or bother them. So that's why they were able to not just, they're both great players. They're going to play great. They're going to put up huge numbers, and that team is going to win a lot of games. All of those things we know to be true. I mean, Tatum, it was one of the, the easier 37 point, 31 points he had? 37. It's an easy 37. Easy 37. Mix in 10 assists. You shoot 8 of 11 from behind the arc, 14 of 18 from the field. That's too easy. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how on you are. Somebody needs to be able to do something that's too easy. And especially when we got the wing stop, we got Bridges and we got OG, and y'all can't do anything with this guy to, not let him shoot 14 of 18. Come on, man. If a guy's going to shoot 14 of 18 and he's also going to add in another 10 assists, you're going to lose most of the time, especially when he's surrounded by a host of other really, really good players. So the Knicks defense has to improve, okay? That's something that has to improve. That's something that I am confident will improve. Went on a sidetrack, but I was talking about let's remember a few things. Let's also remember the fact that Tom Thibodeau teams don't typically start out hot, okay? Last year when we made the trade for OG, we were 17-15. Tom Thibodeau teams usually start humming around January and finishing strong and going into the playoffs strong. I think if we eventually want to get to the places that, if we want to reach the goals that we have set out and the expectations, if we want to meet those, then we can't be fighting at the end of the season. We need to be feeling pretty comfortable and being able to, rest guys, get guys straight, and hopefully we've run away with the 1 seed. Doesn't look likely after what we saw from the Celtics tonight. But it's one game. It's one game. Okay, one game. So can't get too crazy. But when you really dive into the game, obviously the Celtics waxed us. There are some small things that we can take from this, though, that maybe make you feel a little bit better. And there's also some things that we can take from this game that maybe are a little bit alarming and, something to look at moving forward. So OG Anunoby from the very beginning of the game looked like he was being very aggressive. This is the same thing that we heard about towards the end of last year, that we saw in the playoffs last year before he ends up popping the hammy, and that we also heard about this offseason and then saw in the preseason. OG's going to be more aggressive. So he comes out and he's fairly aggressive. He gets to the rim early. He gets a layup. But then he ends up being 1 of 7 for the night. 1 of 7. He's 0 of 4 from 3, was never really able to get into any sort of rhythm. OG is going to get a lot of his buckets in when we're in the open floor and a ball, that secondary break, he's fading to the corner and catching it and shooting a 3, or he's out in front and, finishing on the break. And, quite often he's going to be getting involved with making steals and, turning defense into offense. We didn't see that tonight from OG. I thought he did. I saw a couple plays on defense where you see his smarts and his understanding of positioning, and he did all right. But overall, he didn't really have the impact. He wasn't a pest on defense like we typically expect to see from him. OG, not a great game. Okay. But I'm not expecting OG to be a guy who's going to be a dominant scorer. But I expect a little bit more than 4 points in 34 minutes. So OG got to play better. Josh Hart, I thought, played pretty well, actually. He ended up with 12 points. He scored 4 early, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He was 0 of 2 from 3, but he at least, did look willing to take some. I thought there was a couple times where he didn't take them, but he ends up being 4 of 6 from inside the arc. And I thought Josh Hart played pretty well. Josh Hart does what he typically is going to do and what you expect of him. Karl Anthony Towns, New York Knicks debut. Now, he only played 23 minutes and 37 seconds. A lot of the Knicks didn't play a lot in the fourth quarter due to the lopsidedness of the score. And in that time, he was 5 of 9 from the field. He was 1 of 2 from 3. He made his lone free throw, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. no blocks, and he only had one foul, which is interesting because Karl Anthony Towns usually is just a foul machine. If there's one thing that's going to frustrate me and Knicks fans this season, it's going to be Karl Anthony Towns and his fouling sometimes. But I thought Cat played pretty well. And, I listen, when you have a player who gets paid as much as he does, there's going to be times where you want him to impose his will on a game a little bit more. And when you're a big man who shoots a lot of threes, it seems like there's going to be times where you're not going to be able to do that because a lot of the buckets that you're going to get are going to have to come off of somebody else drawing and then kicking to you. But you see him sometimes. There was a couple times late in the shot clock. One time when Drew Holiday was trying to hold him and the Knicks were good and being patient and getting him the ball and clearing out and him giving him space and him getting in and putting up, like, I think it was like a little lefty jump hook or something like that, where you need more of that from you, Cat, at certain times. But one of the great things about him is that he doesn't stop the ball. So he really doesn't do that unless it's late in the shot clock and you ask him to. And we're able to run that 5-out system where the ball never really sticks, where he's not, taking a ton of dribbles. And so we're going to have to pick and choose and figure out like a rhythm of when we kind of need him to go and when we need him to, catch it and give it up and be decisive and either shoot or, make a quick pass. I thought that he did a good job. Like I said, he had 3 assists. I thought he did a pretty good job with the, that high post, catching the ball, either doing a handoff or maybe turning around and passing the back door. We weren't able to really execute it and get it to a point where we had a lot of those nice back doors where we were getting layups off of it. But his willingness to pass, his ability to pass, and his overall court vision, I think, are things that you're going to be surprised about as the season goes along. We saw Hartenstein be so successful in that role. We're going to see Karl Anthony Towns have some games where he has 6 or 7 assists. And by the end of the season, people are going to be talking about what a great passer he is, similar to like what happened to Hartenstein and part of why he went and got paid out in OKC. Get better soon, Hartenstein. Broke his hand. Sucks. That's why you go get paid, right? That's why you go get paid. Because you never know when that injury is coming, fuck up your whole season. And, now next year, that $17 million, you can't even get that. Still wish he would have stayed, obviously. But, get well soon, I heart. Mikal Bridges. All right. Let's talk about it. So there's all this talk about Bridges and him changing his shot. He's got a hitch in his jumper now. There's all these videos about what it used to look like, what it looks like now. He's been asked about it. He says that he's tinkers with his form every offseason and that he's always been trying to get his shot back to what it was like in college in his Villanova days, because that's when it felt the best to him. That might be the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. Bruh, you shoot 37% from for your career. You're a much better than average NBA 3-point shooter. Last year, you led the league in points from the corner. You made more corner threes than anybody. What are we talking about? Go back to that, okay? Whatever that is, go back to that. He went 2 of 19 from behind the arc in the preseason, and today he starts off and his first threes just look broke. Like there is no chance they're going in, and they are just clanging iron and skipping all around the court. It was a problem. It's a problem. Now, he ends up being 2 of 7. And in the second half, overall offensively, it seemed like he was playing a lot better. He ends up on the game 7 of 13, shooting over 50%. Like I said, 2 of 3 from, 2 of 7 from behind the arc. He missed his lone free throw. He had 2 assists. I needed a little bit more from Bridges tonight. I needed Bridges to impose his will on the game a little bit more. And this whole thing with this shot, I swear, man, if this dude all of a sudden just forgets how to shoot, does like some Markelle Fultz type shit, I'll start to feel like the fucking Knicks are cursed, just because it's like, yo, this dude has been a good shooter his entire career, and then he comes to the Knicks, and that's the summer where he decides to add a hitch to a shot. Nobody adds a hitch. You try to work out of a hitch if you have a hitch. Come on, man. Don't do no stupid shit. Figure this out. I've tried not to even acknowledge this or make it a big deal until we get into the regular season. I did not want to, think about this too much and put too much emphasis on this during the preseason. But now we're at the point where it's like, yo, these games are real, and this stupid shit about changing your form. What does that even mean? Changing your form. Come on, man. This guy scored over 20 points a game multiple times. He's been in the league for a while. Like I said, he's a good shooter. And right now he wants to add a hit. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. I do not want to be talking about this a couple weeks from now, yo. Our fearless leader, Jalen Brunson. Brunson look good, man. He's 9 of 14, 22 points. Only had 2 assists, I think that Brunson's gonna go a tick up when it comes to his assist numbers this season. I think he averaged 6 last year. I think that could be 7 or 8 this year, just because of the floor is going to be more open. He's going to be able to get more drives to the rim, where it's not going to be Mitchell Robinson down low, but it's going to be somebody who he can kick to, who can do something other than just dunk the ball from close if he's in the perfect position. So I think that's going to be that's going to lead to him being more of a facilitator. I think Brunson has looked spry from the beginning of the preseason. He's looked great. He looked great tonight. I thought that Brunson played just well overall, and, it didn't really matter, obviously, too much. Those 22 points he had in only 24 and a half minutes. So those are the starters. You got Sims coming off the bench. He's the first center to be inserted. He ends up being 2 of 3, 9 rebounds. Though he did give up his share of offensive rebounds. The Celtics overall had 11 offensive rebounds, and from the very beginning of the game and throughout the game, it was frustrating to watch us not be able to box out and letting guys like Derek White be able to get extra possessions. And every single one of those extra possessions ended up in a 3. It was every single one. You see that in the NBA all the time, but specifically tonight, every single one. Sims, I'm sorry, but I like Huckporty better than him. Huckporty only got 6 minutes tonight. In those 6 minutes, he got 4 rebounds. He got a great block. And he just seems more engaged and like he has better defensive instincts than Sims. Sims has 0 defensive awareness. 0. And then after Tatum has already started to get cooking, he starts he goes underneath on Tatum, and he lets him step into an easy 3. Bang, hits it, of course. Then he gets switched on to Tatum. Tatum has the ball top of the key. He doesn't crowd him, and Tatum does one dribble, doesn't even really do a step back, just does just a one in and out, and boom, hits another 3. Back to back. And that was a point where I think we maybe got it down to 15, and all of a sudden, bam, it's 21. Some shit like that. And he just seems to have no understanding of he has no instincts. He has no understanding of the moment. He has no understanding of the fact that this guy, with the way he's shooting threes, you need to get up on him and make him drive around you and deal with that. Hope that you get some help. But you cannot give him the airspace to pull up for a 3 when he cannot miss from 3. He just hit one. And the going under the screen on Tatum, I know that last year he did not shoot great from behind the arc. He didn't shoot great in the Olympics from behind the arc. He didn't shoot great in the playoffs or in the finals from behind the arc. I think that if you want to start off a game by letting him just walk into and taking practice 3s, that's fucking stupid. Okay. I love Tom Thibodeau. It seemed like at the very beginning of the game that the defensive game plan, from the way I was watching Cat play it, and this is, multiple times, was that Cat was in drop coverage. I'm sorry, but against Jason Tatum, you cannot just be in drop coverage like that. Not just that's what we're going to do. If you want to mix it up and sometimes be in drop and sometimes blitz and sometimes go over the screen, or, if you want to mix it up, fine. But if you just want to say, hey, we're going to be in drop coverage, you better hope that he is off that day. Because if he's not, you see what happens. I didn't love the way that we were defending the 3, and I hated the way that we were playing the pick and roll, both schematically. It was just too predictable the way that we were playing it. And I also didn't think that the effort was great. You have to understand that if we have Mikal Bridges and he is our guy that we bring in specifically to play against guys like Tatum, that if you just decide to do everything into drop coverage and switch, And now all of a sudden, all he has to do is just set one screen, and he now has Karl Anthony Towns on him. Then we lose our advantage of having this great defender if we let them dictate the matchup so easily. That's why you have to mix it up. Sometimes he's got to go over. Sometimes you have to blitz, mix in some drop coverage as well. But that team is too good. That player is too good to show them the same look over and over again and not have them figure it out. Yeah, Sims, I keep one that got to be good. I've always thought with his body, his overall athletic ability, that I can't see how he couldn't become a good center in this league. And it seems like he's regressed. I think Sims was better 2 seasons ago than he is right now. Seriously, I see him during a free throw. He's like, twirling. He's like doing some shit where he's like twirling his hair. Motherfucker, play the goddamn game. Okay. Play the game. Pay attention. Stop looking like you just woke up from a nap all the time and make an impact. Where's the Mike Bibby shit? We're getting blown out. Shoot a 13-footer. I see all of these highlights of you with Mike Bibby, and you're shooting with both hands. And in the games, he has zero offense. Zero. There's zero offense about his game in the slightest. He's worse than Mitch on offense. He's more one-dimensional than Mitch. Yeah, Huck Porty. I'm on the Huck. I'm in the Huck Porty hive. Come on, Huck Porty. Huck, come on. Give me him. He is more active. He has better offensive skills. I think in short order, your boy Sims is going to be maybe getting a little bit of time in the D League, just so he can stay in shape, keep his cardio up. Deuce, my man Deuce, Miles McBride. Deuce looked great, man. Deuce is 8 of 10, 4 or 5 from behind the arc. He's playing good defense. Deuce's shot is so soft. That guy gets so many bounces, and he shoots the ball with very good arc. And Deuce is he's doing his thing, man. That was the real bright spot tonight for me, is how Miles McBride played, how he shot the ball, how aggressive he was being, and the potential for what he can be as a combo guard off the bench. He's the early favorite for 6th man of the year. Deuce looked good. Campaign, he was all right. He's all right. He ends up being 5 of 10. He's only 1 of 4 from 3. There was one point when he first got into the game, he annoyed me. He first got into the game. I feel like he just immediately, he comes in and immediately turned it over. That's what he did. Came in immediately, turned it over. Then after that, I think he missed a shot. The team in general, there was one point in the second quarter, we were just passing up too many open shots. Deuce gets the and 1-3, misses the free throw. And then the Celtics, they just had all that good shit going where, they're being the aggressor. The shots are falling. Now they're starting to get bounces. There's a play where, a ball gets tapped out. It's Brunson, somebody else that gets tapped, and it ends up being like a layup for them. And the Knicks defense sucked. That's the thing. The offense wasn't bad. The offense ain't the problem. Knicks scored 109 points. The New York Knicks overall shot 55%. If a Tom Thibodeau team shoots 55% with the type of defense they typically play, you think they're going to win the game. Not tonight, because the Celtics, they shot 50%, but they shot 47.5% from 3. They made an all-time record 29 threes, and they took down the Knicks 132 to 109. I would like to see a little bit more of Kolek early in the game. He got in, played late, hit a 3. He seems to still be definitely way behind both Campaign and Deuce. And now that we don't have your boy Shamit, now you see that Dadier is getting some minutes. I like Dadier. I've always liked Dadier. I like his size. I like that he has some basketball IQ to him and can handle the ball. I don't love his defense. Nobody does. Quite often when guys come over from Europe, it takes them a little bit to get used to playing NBA defense. And with Tom Thibodeau, if you can't do that, it's going to be a tough time getting on the court. But with that being said, Dadier got some good minutes tonight. Dadier hit a 3 tonight. He played 13 minutes. He was in the game in the second quarter, I believe. He had 13 minutes, and Dadier had the best plus minus on the team, plus 10. Huck Porty was plus 9. Dadier had the best plus minus on the team. I thought he played well. I like what I saw out of him, but the Knicks got to shore up the 3-point defense. They got to shore up the pick and roll defense. They got to shore up the defensive glass. It is 1 of 82. It is early in the season. It is a Tom Thibodeau team that we typically do not start quickly, but we need to not let this get to a point where around the 30 game mark, we're around 500. Okay. If we start off 5-5, something like that, that's one thing. But around that 30 game mark, you want to be 6, 7, 8 games over 500 minimum. If you want to have the type of season that the New York Knicks anticipate to have. They've gone all in over in Minnesota. Okay, that game went final. The Lakers set history tonight by getting a father and son on the floor for the first time, and they got the dub. The Lakers, they won this game 110-103. Let's see what our former Knicks did. Julius shot 5 of 10 in 34 minutes, 1 of 3 from behind the arc, 5 of 7 from the free throw line. He ends up with 16 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 turnovers. Solid game from Julius. Julius is, coming off the injury. And I think that's a pretty solid game from him. Nothing crazy, but solid. Ragu, 3 of 11, 2 of 8 from 3. He had 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. Ends up with 10 points. Subpar for Ragu. Not horrible, but I'm sure Ragu himself, Dante DiVincenzo, will tell you that's subpar. And I definitely root for those guys to do well. And I will always, they're 2 of the Knicks that I was most fond of. I was leader of the Julius Randle fan club, and I felt like he got way too much criticism during his time as a Knick and matured quite a bit and was so important to this team when we were in our absolute bottom. And Ragu last year, I mean, in a 1-year stint, I don't know if there's ever been a player I liked more. He was fantastic, hit one of the greatest shots in Knicks history, and clearly was hurt by the fact that he was traded away from the Knicks, as was evidenced as his, beef with Thibodeau and Rick Brunson during the preseason game against the Knicks. But as much as I like them and I root for them, especially with the Knicks getting their asses handed to them the way that they did, I wouldn't have loved it if, Julius had 32 and 12 and Dante had 19 and, they won big and, they're fucking dancing and having a good time. That would have made tonight's Knick game a little bit tougher to swallow. But like I said, it's 1 of 82. We get our home opener against the Pacers, who knocked out the nicked up Knicks last year in Game 7 of the semifinals. So I hope the Knicks come out with a much better defensive mindset and effort. I hope that Mikal Bridges stops doing this stupid bullshit with his shot and just goes back to the shot that he had that, was 37% and just shoots it like that. And I hope that we see a slightly more robust offensive performance from Cat in this next game. But Knicks lose tonight, 132-109 to the Celtics. Celtics get their rings and get the dub and tie an NBA record for 3-pointers made in one game. Knicks got work to do. And I hope that they look at this and they realize that they're not on the level of the Celtics. And then if they want to be by the end of the season, they're going to have to get better. And most importantly, they're going to have to get an identity. This has been Nick on Knicks. We will see you Friday night after Knicks Pacers. Peace.